Hi everyone, Wismeril here. Today I want to talk about the next build guide that I'm going to cover on the channel, and I called for a poll over there. So if you did not vote yet, make sure to vote, because this is going to be the order in which I'm going to release the next build guides on the channel. So I did the conjuration one. I finished theory crafting the best possible version of that build, and I'm going to present it right now in this video. But also make sure to vote, because otherwise I'm going to do second the ice spikes build, and possibly for the third one we're going to see how it goes once the dust settles. Okay, so make sure you do vote, because I'm going to do that often in order to know what are your expectations in terms of build guides on the channel. All right, let's see what I got for you today. So I'm very excited to assemble and to play this build, because it looks very fun, very strong, and very synergistic. I'm very proud of the way I was able to finish that build, because I started that one when the patch notes of season 2 were just released, and I theory crafted a lot of builds. And this one, I was pretty excited about this one. Now, what's the challenge? What's the goal of that build over here? Well, to put it simply, we're trying to put as many conjurations as possible on the battlefield to do our bidding, to deal the damage for us. And I've been thinking a lot about this build, trying a lot of different versions. This one is the one that achieves that goal in the best possible way. It's gonna be glorious. The screen is gonna be filled with so many conjurations, you have no idea. How am I going to achieve that? First, we're gonna play HYDRA as our first enchantment. We're going to have the mana cost to spawn those 5-headed hydras be as low as possible, thanks to the enchantment master. Therefore, when we spend, oh, there's the beast, the number of the beast in here, see? After spending 166.67 mana, a 5-headed hydra will spawn for 7.44 seconds. We're going to be a whale in that build. We're going to be a big spender. We're going to use Chain Lightning as our spender, because it's the only spell in the Sorcerer kit really that is mana positive, that yields more mana than it costs to spend it. And we're going to nearly cap out on the attack speed in order to make sure that we're going to spawn as many hydras as possible. It's relatively easy to spawn 2 hydras at the same time. The challenge of that build will be to have up to 5 hydras out. Let's see if I can manage that. If I can't, it's gonna be 4 or 3. Realistically, we're gonna have 3, possibly 4, and I think I can achieve 5. We'll see when I assemble and play the build and give you a feedback. There's gonna be another video. This one is just to show you what it is about. Next, we want to have as many ice blades as possible. That's why we're running it as our second enchantment. It's getting discounted by the enchantment master too, and it says for every 33.33 seconds in cooldown you spawn an ice blade on a random enemy. Of course, we are looking to optimize those. We're not going to wait 33.33 seconds for ice blades to spawn. We're going to cheat with our cooldown and the elapsed seconds in cooldown in a few different ways. The first way we're going to cheat is, of course, by running those flicker step unique boots. Every time we evade through 3 enemies, we're going to reduce the unstable current cooldown by 10 seconds. So let's say we evade 3 times through 3 enemies, that's already 30 seconds gone from this enchantment. And this is one of the ways we're going to spawn a huge amount of ice blades on the screen. We are looking also to cheat on our cooldown thanks to the overflowing energy. Every time crackling energy, hits enemies, some seconds, some milliseconds are taken from our lightning spells, mainly unstable currents, lightning spear, and teleports. So by having crackling energy connect to 5 enemies, that's like half a second gone on those 3 spells, and it's really helping on having ice blades spawned automatically. And the last way we're going to do is, of course, by using the enhanced ice blades. Whenever ice blades hits a vulnerable enemy, we're going to see how we make everything vulnerable. Its cooldown is reduced by half a second, and 0.1 second is taken off our other cooldowns, those 1, 2, 3, 4 cooldowns. Now, invoked ice blades is better if you want to reduce the cooldown of ice blades, and in general, if you want to reduce cooldowns to make the most out of the ice blade enchantment. So this one would be better, but I prefer to run the summoned ice blades because I prefer to have a better uptime on unstable currents than to have a lower cooldown on everything else. But by all means, if you want to try the second version, you can try this one. Your ice blades are going to attack a lot faster because there's going to be a lot of them out there on the battlefield. So this is how we're going to have as many ice blades as possible. Of course, we are going to spawn them, and the cooldown is pretty short, as you've seen here, because the more the merrier. The more there is out there, the more often you can cast it. We are looking at 2 hydras out, obviously because of the serpentine legendary aspect, allowing us to have 2 hydras out, and the duration of hydras is nearly 15 seconds, while the one from the enchantment is nearly 7.5 seconds. We're going to manually cast lightning spears. And of course, we are looking at a very low cooldown on lightning spear thanks to the overflowing energy, and when unstable currents is up, the supreme unstable current makes it even more. Like the cooldown on that is going to be ridiculous. And whenever we spawn it ourselves, we're going to spawn them in pairs of 2, 3 times out of 4. Because we are running the splintering energy legendary power on our amulet. Of course, when our unstable currents ultimate is up, 1 cast out of 4 is going to be a lightning spear. So that's also how, like, I prefer to run those 2 as enchantments and to make the most out of them. Lightning spear as an enchantment, I don't think is as valuable as those 2, and we're cheating on lightning spear anyway because we have unstable current up most of the time, and when it's up, 1 cast out of 4 of chain lightning or teleport for that matter will automatically cast lightning spear. So this is how we are going to fill the screen with ice blades, hydras, and lightning spears. It's gonna be glorious. The synergy of all those spells is just amazing. Speaking of synergies, we are of course running mystical teleports in order to hit 5 enemies with crackling energy in order to have unstable current up as often as possible, which in turn will lower the cooldown of itself, lightning spear, and teleports. There's a lot of synergy here going on. Okay, next let's talk about the way we're gonna make chain lightning mana positive, okay, because this is very important in order to have as many hydras as possible. We're gonna be playing the reworked Static Surge legendary node. When we cast 4 lightning 3 times, the 4th cast is going to make those 5 enemies hit by chain lightning vulnerable. That's nice, but it's also going to restore 10% of our maximum mana. Our maximum mana is gonna be around 12.7 mana from that legendary node. So that's one way we can do things. I decided, I will try, of course I will bench the build, don't worry, and I will give you my final feedback in another video, but for now I'm trying to stay away from the recharging ring, which is going to yield up to 15 mana per cast of Chain Lightning. I think we can get away without including it in the build, and by doing so we can include one more multiplier, damage multiplier in the build, which, you know, I'm always looking to make the most optimized builds as possible. So I think I can get away with it by just running the new static search, by having a lucky hit affix up to 5% chance to restore up to 21% mana, excuse me. So that's around 25 mana with a roll here and another roll there. The lucky hit chance of conjuration has been nerfed to the ground, okay? On HYDRA, it's only 3% chance per head. On lightning spear, that's 5% chance per hit, but it hits multiple targets. And on ice plates, that's 15% per hit. It used to be a lot more. It used to be 70% in season 0 in pre-season, but it has been nerfed to the ground. So how do we make the most out of that? Well, we try to have a billion of them on the battlefield. And that's how we're going to have some lucky hit procs. Otherwise, it won't happen. I'd like to mention that the lucky hit chance of Chain Lightning is very high. That's 25% per bounce. It bounces 5 times, so you're guaranteed to have at least one on average lucky hit proc per Chain Lightning cast. So that's pretty good. The combination of all those things is what in my book makes me think that we can proc reliably often this 5% chance to restore 25 mana here and there, and then getting away with not running the recharging ring. Once I assemble the build and play it a lot, I will make a final video that's going to tell you what is the best way to assemble the build. On top of that, we have resource generation rolls on the offhand and on both rings, so that every time we generate those 12.7 mana over here and those 25 mana over there, that's actually gonna get multiplied by our mana generation, which can get up to 66.5, so times 1.665. So in reality, when this or that procs, that's 41 mana, up to 41 mana, and every 4 casts of of Chain Lightning, that's 20 mana. So I think by just doing that, we should be fine. Of course, we want max mana rolls on our rings. So that's how I think we can manage to have Chain Lightning be mana positive. If not, I'm gonna be looking to maybe include that. We also have the synergy that I might remove, because we might not need to pick up those crackling energy to generate mana thanks to Chain Lightning, and I might be able to reassign those points somewhere else. For now, I think we are overkill in the mana management department, and I will tailor fit, fine-tune this build to really have everything assigned in the best possible place. So that's how we are looking to have Chain Lightning be mana positive spell. And if it's a mana positive spell, we're gonna make the most out of it by scaling our attack speed to the moon, because this legendary, this vampiric power is completely busted in season 2. In this build, it's gonna give us up to 61% attack speed, and in the Lilith/Duriel/Wall Boss variant, we're going to scale that all the way to 80%. On top of that, we will benefit from 25% increased attack speed when our ultimate is up. It's going to be up most of the time. That's how I designed that build. And we're also going to benefit from 25% increased attack speed when Chain Lightning crits. It's going to crit very often, because when it bounces, it receives 3% increased critical strike chance, and we have a very high critical strike chance because our conjuration spells will benefit a lot from it damage-wise. So we are going to scale our attack speed to the moon. We're running a 1.2 attacks per second setup by not running a staff. So mana positive, cast as many as you can. We're going to be a big spender, like I said. We're going to be whales, and we're not going to run any mana cost reduction on the amulet, the offhand. Well, those unique boots don't have them anyway. This is how we're going to be able to spend a lot of mana as fast as possible. And having this trigger only at 167 mana, there's going to be a lot of hydras everywhere. Having a lot of attack speed is going to spawn a lot of lightning spears during our unstable currents. And for the last one, this one doesn't scale with attack speed. Where attack speed is benefiting your conjurations. For Hydra, I'm pretty sure. For the others, that has to be confirmed, but having more attack speed means they attack faster, which is great in that build because we are not running the burn version of Hydra, we are running the critical strike, the upfront damage version of the build. So that's how attack speed comes into the picture. To deal damage, we are a crowd control, how do you say that in English? We rely on crowd control to do our damage. That's one of those sorcerer builds where you have to have that. And I will show you how we are going to deal with bosses, butchers, and stuff. Don't worry. But for now, we're going to apply crowd control to enemies thanks to the, what's it called again? The invoked lightning spear, which is going to stun enemies for 2 seconds when it crits. It has inherent high critical strike chance, and we do stack crit chance, so don't worry. It's gonna apply stuns to pretty much everything around us. And why do we need that? Well, because this new vampiric power was introduced in Season 2. There's a 52% multiplier. This is a big number for anything that's crowd control and hit by our conjuration spells. Since we're going this way, then we're going to go all in crowd control damage. We're including the aspect of control for 35% damage multiplier, and there's going to be more of that in the Paragon board. This one's quite interesting too. On a lucky hit, which like I said is not very high on conjuration, but the more the merrier. When you have a lot of them, it's gonna proc. Your conjuration have a 30% chance to inflict vampiric curse when hitting enemies, and vampiric curse is going to make enemies vulnerable. We're also making enemies vulnerable with a static surge over here. And we can make enemies vulnerable by evading through them in order to reduce the cooldown of our ultimate. And basically, imagine that. All our skills are hitting enemies, so this is proccing the attack, reduce evade cooldowns by 1.2 seconds, part of the boots and of the Oculus. So if you can dash all day, basically just spawn on cooldown your ice blades and lightning spear, have 2 hydras out, and then dash everywhere around. Teleport every 4 seconds, and then dash through groups of 3 enemies here and there, collecting crackling energy on the way, so that you're topped off in mana and you automatically spawn everything everywhere. The only time where you don't want to be evading through enemies is when you pop your unstable currents. For 10 seconds you want to be full force, to go full force on chain lightning, and then once this is down, evade everywhere to get your ultimate cooldown back to your ultimate spell back. I'm sorry, can't speak. It's been a long day and a short night. So that's why we're running this setup. That looks amazing. On paper, it looks amazing. I can't wait to run it and to further optimize it. So that's why we have those 3 powers there. We are running the anticipation, obviously, to reduce unstable current by 20%, and the attack speed, I've already talked about it. So this is the setup in terms of vampiric powers. I think I did cover... oh yeah, let's talk about this one. That's one of the new legendary powers in Season 2, the Battlecaster. On a lucky hit, it can be a lucky hit of Chain Lightning, by the way, which will happen more frequently, I believe, than lucky hit from the conjurations themselves. On a lucky hit... oh no, sorry, it's a lucky hit from conjuration damage. There is a 40% chance that you're going to gain +1 rank to conjuration skills for 12 seconds. 12 seconds is very long. That's why I believe it's best in slot to have that, even though the proc rate is quite low. And it can stack up to 3 times. That will make our conjuration skills have their internal multiplier scaling with those procs. We already have +4 ranks to everything on the helm, +3 ranks on the amulet, and this is going to be an additional +3 ranks on all those spells. So they are going to hit like a truck. I did some calculations because I wanted to know what was the breakpoint to include this legendary power in a conjuration build compared to, let's say, a generic multiplier of 25, like the conceded legendary. And I'm going to show you the calculation, if I can find the file. I'm sorry for that. Where the hell did I put that? There are so many folders. There, okay. So let me just show you the breakpoint of this legendary power, which in my book is, so 3 ranks in HYDRA is 3.6 additional, like scaling the multiplier of HYDRA. 3.6 per HYDRA, 6.9 per Ice Blades, and 4.5 per Lightning Spear. If you sum them up and have 1 out of each, you just scaled your multiplier by 15%. If you have 2 of them out, that's 30% scaling multiplier, which is better than the conceded for 25% damage multiplier. So having just 6 of them is already a better inclusion for this. And as you can imagine, we're looking to have 1 million of them out. This is going to be glorious. Having 1 million of them out is going to do some interesting thing to this conjuration mastery node. You're going to have a multiplier of 6% for each active conjuration. I'm not sure it's possible, but let's say we have 20 of them out. I think it's possible, but we'll see during gameplay. So if you have 20 conjurations out, this is going to do 100, and that's going to be a 120% damage multiplier. That's a big number. That's why we're looking to scale this node on the amulet. Even if you have 10, that's a 60% damage multiplier. That's a lot. The nice thing about this node is that in-game it shows the count of conjuration. So you can just look at the icon above your skill bar and you can see how many conjurations you have out, and that will help me a lot in like further optimizing this build to have as many as possible out. I can't wait to test that build. It's going to be a blast. So this is going to hit like a truck. That's why we want some rolls over here. So we did talk about the ranks of conjuration here and there. Of course, you want cooldown reduction everywhere. 10% here, 10 as a prefix and as an affix over there, and 10 over here. And in the Paragon board, we're going to be rocking this Elemental Summoner legendary node for an additional 10% cooldown just for conjuration. And 10% reduced cost reduction on HYDRA. We'll talk about the damage multiplier later. And movement speed over here and over there funnels into our attack speed over here for 61% currently and 80% in the Lilith and Wall Boss Killer version. So that's, yeah, some lucky hit chance here and there is helpful. Here you're looking to have critical strike chance as the last affix. So those are static affixes. Alors, it's nice that we don't have resource cost reduction on the boots because we don't want it everywhere in order to have higher uptime on the HYDRA enchantment. And this one, yes, I did cover it. Attack speed, locations, crit chance. Then we're looking at the defense. This version over here is the Nightmare Dungeon push version / speed farming version, because both will be running the same setup. You're tanky enough to do Nightmare Dungeons tier 100. You're running the Disobedience, and you're running the Ever Living, we saw that pretty much everything is going to be vulnerable around us, and when it's crowd control, well, it's not really retaliating, is it? So we're going to have like damage reduction here. We'll have damage reduction because in historically speaking, lightning specs have access to the damage reduction over here. That's nice. This one's going to be up all the time for another 21% damage reduction. We're looking to have damage reduction from distant close and regular one on both the chest and the pants. Rolls of armor on both also, combined with disobedience. That will make us very tanky. The last defensive aspect, for now, I think if you don't have the GG Harlequin quest, the best in slot would be the Protector one. Our health pool is around 11,000, and this one is going to double our toughness when we deal damage to an elite during 10 seconds. That's an 11,000 up to 11,000 barrier that we're going to have at that moment. So I think this one is best in slot. Of course, getting like there's no other builds where the Shaco is best in slot than this one. Why? Because on the helm, you want to have those +4 ranks to Hydra, Lightning Spear, and Ice Plates. Well, guess what? Harlequin Quest does that in one line that is not even an affix. On top of that, the 20% damage reduction in my book is better than this barrier. I might be wrong, but I think this one's better because it's all up all the time, while this one is only up when we fight an elite every 30 seconds. So you have all of that done in those two lines. You have access to resource generation on Shaco, which is unbelievably good in this build. So definitely best in slot. Cooldown reduction is preserved, and on top of that, you have access to max life and all stats. If you have that one, it will shine in this build. Otherwise, just run this helm over there, which will make you fairly tanky in my opinion. We did cover pretty much everything. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that or get rid of it, like I said. The sustain is done through the protection node. Like having to cast cooldowns all over the place is going to give you a nice 30% max life barrier for sustain, which is very good. Sustain is a multiplier for your toughness. You're very tough, and then enemies not able to one-shot you, and you recovering that life or barrier in the meantime that they attack you is recovery and is a multiplier for your toughness. That's why this is super good in this build. I wish I could run this one for even more toughness, but this one's best in slot over here. I have to test if elemental attunement resets cooldown reset on teleport makes it that 6.82 seconds are taken off the Ice Blades enchantment. If not, I will remove those points and put them like here, for instance. Otherwise, we want to be running like this with a multiplier here. I'm not sure I'm going to keep this node over there. If not, I'm going to put it here and might go all in on the potent warding to maximize our resistance, which we don't cap out in this build because we're running a unique pair of boots that doesn't have two rolls, two affixes of resistance, and we're not using that. So that's for the skill tree. Let's talk Paragon board. You know me, I'm a perfectionist. This is the best possible Paragon setup, period, for this summoner build. Why? Alright, so we're going to be running two multipliers on boards number 7 and number 6. That's a 7 board, 5 glyphs setup. Of course, we want the Elemental Summoner Legendary node because of the cooldown reduction and resource cost reduction. And also, this is going to be a multiplier for conjuration damage, scaling with fire, lightning, and cold, i.e. non-physical damage. And guess what? The 6th board, Frigid Fate, says you have a bonus multiplier to vulnerable enemies that's going to scale with your cold damage. We're not stacking any cold damage, fire, lightning. We're stacking non-physical damage. And just by doing that, they double dip because we scale this multiplier to 24 and we scale this multiplier to 26. How are we going to achieve that? The starter board is the best in slot board for the Enchanter Glyph, scaling our non-physical damage up to 92.4. We have non-physical damage here and there over those rare and magic nodes. In the Enchantment Master board that we do want anyway, because this is best in slot for the build, we're going to have access to 3 nodes, magic and rare, for non-physical damage, and here damage to elites and a little bit of maximum life, that are even going to scale this further. It double dips. It goes into the additive damage bucket, and it scales our multipliers there. So that's the best way you're looking to do things. I already talked about this one, and that's it for the legendary nodes. Next, let's have a look at the Paragon, the glyphs. So we are running 5 glyphs, we already talked about that one. The other 4 are, we have 1 intelligence glyph and 3 dexterity. We're looking to have our best dexterity glyph in the best boards, which are Burning Instinct and Ceaseless Conduit. The best one is going to be Invocation, because every 5 dexterity translates into 27.7, that's a large number, critical strike damage for conjuration skills. And on top of that, it's going to help on the toughness side by reducing damage by 12% multiplicative from anything that's being hit by our conjuration. Pretty nice. This one is new. It's been added in Season 2. Over there, on the second 49 dexterity board, we have Destruction, scaling 19.8%, that's also a big number, per 5 dexterity. So we do want to crit for our conjurations to do damage. 271 and 194. Those numbers are not to joke at. They are really going to fill our additive damage bucket nicely. So on a side note, that's why we, on the Lilith bosses stuff, we are going to run those Essus Heirloom, which, thanks to the evade granting 75% movement speed for 3 seconds, are going to cap out our movement speed, funneling nicely into 80% attack speed thanks to the vampiric power, and also giving us 30% additional critical strike chance. If you're maxed out, you're at around 50%. Whoops, that's not you. That's you somewhere. Yeah, here. You're at, if you're maxed out at 50%, having 30% more, that's 80% critical strike chance. So that's pretty good. And it is mandatory in a like damaging scenario against Lilith, for instance, in order to make the most of those 2 glyphs. So that's for dexterity, 49. The next best dexterity glyph is Static Surge, but it's also the best one for intelligence. And guess what? This is the best glyph for this build in terms of intelligence. Scales nicely, 13.2% per 5 intelligence on conjuration damage, and has something that you do need. You want conjuration skills to last 20% increased duration, to have 20% increased duration. This is really best in slots. So that's why on that board we want that here. And then we have one last dexterity board that's going to be a 39 in the Enchantment Master. And we're going to rock, like I said, we're going all in on the damage to crowd control. The control is very nice because of the 20% damage multiplier, and it has a very nice value, 14.8% per 5 dexterity. So we're going to stack as much as possible additive damage and get all those sweet multipliers and things that we need for the build anyway, and damage reduction over here. So that's the best setup you can have. When you assemble that in the best possible way, like this, you're only left with 1 point. And that 1 point, I choose to put it over there for some all resist to elements. And that's it. You don't have any other points than that. So that's why I'm convinced that it is the best setup. Rare nodes, a little bit of all resist here and there. Covered those already. Over here, we have some nice additive damage to stun enemies, 30. This point is best here than there, so that's another 7.5 additive damage. We have 20% lightning resistance that we are going to use to even out our resistance. This 25% lightning damage is only useful really for, what is it called, lightning spear, though it scales a little bit further, that node over there. And I'm a perfectionist, we don't need that, but guess what, I found a setup where we have that. we don't burn enemies, we don't set them ablaze, so this is useless. But guess what? I don't know, I just optimize things. So you naturally get it. I think the only point you could grab is this one for that one, and hey, you have 5 more intelligence, but otherwise there's just these points you can move and it gives you that. Anyway, we're not going to use that. So this, my friends, is my take on Season 2 Conjuration. It's gonna be crazy, crazy glorious, crazy amazing. The visuals gonna be pretty nice. How strong is that? I don't know. It looks strong on paper. I'm gonna test that and I'm gonna report on the channel, don't worry. But you know what? I really want to assemble and test that build. Is it going to be stronger than Ball Lightning? I doubt it. But hey, we never know. There's a lot of multipliers there. But you know, it lacks this 1000%, this times 10 damage multiplier. But anyway, I'm going to try that and I'm going to report on the next video. Might not be next video tomorrow because I will cover the BlizzCon this weekend. So you're seeing that in the future and the past. I'm confused. I record videos earlier than they are released. Next video is going to be about BlizzCon, the announcement on the new class, new expansion, maybe some hints about the car level, maybe some... how can I put that? You know, Microsoft already bought Activision Blizzard. Microsoft is greedy, but not as greedy as Activision. So maybe they're gonna give, who knows, the next expansion for free as a gesture to show, hey, we got rid of those vampire board of investors and we are not that greedy, though we are some greedy at some point. But hey, have a free game, be happy customer and be happy that we purchased Activision Blizzard. That might happen. Maybe it's just a rumor, but you know, the more the rumor spreads, the more it might come to Microsoft ears and be like, well, we don't need that $100 million more. We are already making billions every month. So, you know, we can cut on that and make customers happy. Who knows? Anyway, next videos, 1 or 2, will be about BlizzCon. And then we're back at, you know, showcasing this baby, showcasing what it can do. I'm very excited. This has been Wismeril signing off. I'll see you in the next video. You can try to assemble that build if you want, or maybe on the safe side, just wait for me to further optimize it so you don't have to respec 2 or 3 times for nothing. Have fun, guys. I'll see you in the next video.